All right, Nick, what do you think? You want to tee it up here in just a second?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, sweet. All right, well, we're gonna actually start just a shade early. Super excited. So one of the things that I get to do in my weird job, for those of you who I have not met, I'm Kevin. I'm the head of community at Sequence. Um, Thanks so much for spending a little bit of time with us. One of the cool things that I get to do in my weird job is that I am surrounded by experts who really push the boundaries of the thought process and the software and the way that they're going about putting together their financial plans. And so we started this year. I started something new that we call a community mastermind. And for those of you who may have joined the talk that we did with Jeremiah, or that Jeremiah led a few weeks ago, this is the second in that series, and I'm just super pleased to bring to the forefront Nick Adams. Nick is someone that if you're in our Discord community, you may have seen pop up from time to time. His handle is Skyfox. He's super helpful in just helping people figure some things out. And part of the reason that Nick, I'm going to brag on you for just a second, but like part of the reason that we really value Nick is because he's pretty smart by necessity. He has a lot of things going on. Nick's an entrepreneur. He's a landlord. He is planning lots of things in his life and trying to line up lots of disparate entities. And best I can tell from my perspective, one of the ways that he goes about doing that is by organizing his life like a solopreneur. And so when I reached out to Nick and asked him if he would put together a talk and what he might want to share, this is the subject that he wanted to talk to you guys about and share today. And I just couldn't be more excited. So I am going to mostly step back and then we'll make this the Nick show. But I did want to let you guys know if you have questions, totally cool. Drop them into chat and then we'll pick those up along the way as there are good opportunities to do so. But for the time being, I want to welcome to the forefront Mr. Nick Adams. Nick, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, happy to be here. Always happy to chat and kind of share knowledge. So yeah, it's gonna be pretty fun.
Amazing.
Awesome. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. Can everybody see that? Should be bright blue and vibrant. Awesome. All right. So like Kevin mentioned, I'm going to be talking about organizing money like a CEO, the Solopreneur's financial system with me. Hi. So let's go ahead and get rolling. I'm going to move a little quick through the first few slides here, mainly because I think most of the questions and kind of cool stuff is going to be later at the end. So kind of talking through a quick agenda. We're going to take a look at quick background and intro of me, kind of what I'm into, a little bit about me, so you can kind of see where I came from. Separating your business and personal finances, creating an income allocation system, paying yourself consistently, preparing for expenses, and then kind of wrap up in Q&A and kind of talk if we have time left, but do want to kind of speed through this a little bit. So I'm a software developer, cloud computing and security practitioner, avid motorcycle rider, gym enthusiast, and most definitely a caffeine addict. If you guys haven't met me, chug a lot of monsters, and it's probably not good for my health. So I'm also a financial automation and business operations enthusiast, helping out solopreneurs simplify their finances. Founder of multiple businesses, including Adams Digital, which is a website and digital services company, and then Rising Wolf, which is my rental property business. One thing I didn't note on here is I'm looking into laundromats. So if there's any laundromat experts out there, it's a new endeavor I want to start looking into. I'm always happy to get more information and knowledge about that. Been a Sequence user since March of 2024 and kind of sharing what I've learned along the way, the struggles, the triumphs, and all that kind of fun stuff in between. So going to kind of keep moving forward here. All right, why am I here? Solopreneurs often struggle with irregular income, mixed finances, and overall unpredictable cash flow. Most don't have a structured system to pay themselves consistently or on time, manage expenses, or plan for taxes. Additionally, Sequence provides a powerful way to bring structure and automation to solopreneur finances. And a few of the common struggles are inconsistent income, cash flow, separating personal and business finances, kind of that veil of LLCs that you probably heard about before, planning for taxes, avoiding last-minute surprises, and of course, paying themselves sustainably without financial stress. What we're going to learn today, we're going to separate our business and personal finances for better organization, set up a smart income system to manage cash flow. Here's a hint and kind of foreshadowing. You might have heard of this as a digital envelope system. Paying yourself consistently despite income fluctuations, planning for expenses without last-minute stress, and then automating your overall financial management with Sequence. And hopefully by the end, you'll have a clear, repeatable system to run your finances like your own CEO. All right, on to separating business and personal finances. So avoiding the chaos of mixing finances in my own personal experience has caused stress, confusion, tax headaches, issues with keeping services that are required by my customers online and healthy. It's a total mess, right? If you end up mixing those. So solopreneurs struggle with confusing business and personal spending, tax season headaches, potential legal issues, and uncertainty about cash flow and available funds. So what this could look like, I have groceries expenses, utilities, credit cards, transportation, and possibly licensing. When you break out the categories, groceries is personal, utilities could be both, credit cards can be both, transportation also both, and maybe licensing is just business. So how do we compartmentalize these and kind of break these out so I know for a fact that my grocery spend is not going to impact paying for things like business licensing? All right, setting up a business bank account. This may seem super simple, super straightforward to a few of us, but at the same time, it can be pretty daunting. I've worked with some friends where it's, difficulting and paralyzing just to choose which bank to go with. There's so many out there these days. Opening a checking account could cost anywhere from $1 to $25 a month. Some banks waiving fees if balance requirements are met. Sequence, on the other hand, is about $39.99 a month for the annual plan when you're a single business. Pricing is as of yesterday, just kind of keep that out there. But use a separate savings account for setting aside for taxes and reserves, getting a business credit card for easy expense tracking, and then link your accounts to Sequence for automated account management and real-time financial tracking. And also the one plug I didn't add here is Monarch Money. If you don't have any way to automatically categorize your spending and all of that across all of your accounts, that might be a good step as well. So what our goal here is we want one side to be business and one side to be personal. So we want to split out our utilities, credit cards, transportation, and licensing for businesses on one side. And we want to split out personal spend for groceries, utilities, credit cards, transportation, housing, and all of that on the other, right? So try to keep those separate where possible. So building your money map in Sequence, where do we even start? So don't worry, you're probably going to remake it at least a dozen times if you're anything like me. But you always want to try new things. There's always clear ways of doing things. You do it at 1 a.m. You're like, man, I have this awesome idea. Let me go do that real quick. So key things we want to focus on: how am I paid? Who do I need to pay? What do I need to save for? And how do I set aside enough for profits? Maybe the profit first model here. So the goal is that every dollar we receive should have a label on it, should have a purpose. Money is a tool. Let's use it as a tool, right? So we want to create an income source for each way I'm paid. I want to create a pod for each vendor for everyone I need to pay. And then I create a pod or a sinking fund for each goal, such as taxes or vacancy if you're in a rental property business. And create a pod for owners, pay, and profits. Okay. So what this could look like and why we need each one. Each dollar needs to have a purpose. Treat your expenses on a fixed cycle, regardless of how often you're paid. Each vendor gets their own bucket of funds, so one vendor can't steal from another vendor, so to speak, or funds allocated for one thing can't accidentally be used for another. Business funds are not personal funds. We have that clear line, and we don't need to be fancy with it. We just want to be specific, right? So here's what it could look like, right? We've got our two blue boxes up at the top, which Sequence calls those as income sources. These were originally known as ports. The idea is, how do we bring money into the Sequence ecosystem? How do we receive money? How do we get paid, right? So that's going to be up top. So we have Stripe and Venmo, which are two easy ways. So maybe I get reoccurring subscriptions from Stripe or rental property payments through Stripe. Maybe on the side, maybe I have a few friends who are renting from me and they pay via Venmo, or they rent a room from me or something like that, and they want to pay through Venmo, right? So I can receive all those different ways that I receive money all in one place, and then I spend from one place as well. So I have groceries, internet, taxes, profits, owner's pay, all of these different funds, right? Which are their own dedicated checking accounts. They can also have their own debit cards as well. So go ahead and throw them all on the map, start making ideas. It doesn't have to be perfect. Trust me, you're going to redo it 5 or 6 more times. All right, so now that we have all these accounts created, we need to create a way for money to kind of flow through the system. Right now, it's just kind of a mess of checking accounts kind of sitting out there on a map, right? So what we need to first talk about is irregular income and how do we understand it, right? And first thing to be okay with and realize is inconsistent income is okay. It's not a bad thing. It's life. Life happens. Seasonal things happen. It's just normal. Don't be stressing about it or anything like that. There are solutions, right? And this is one of them. So many solopreneurs experience unpredictable income due to seasonal fluctuations, client payments, project-based work, all of that. You guys are very familiar with that. Income and ingress of funds can always go up and down, left and right. It's totally okay though. Why traditional budgeting fails, though. Most personal finance assumes that you have a steady paycheck and that you are a W-2. You're paid on every 2 weeks, the 1st and 15th, 15th and 30th, something like that, right? Normal budgeting is all targeted towards that. And that kind of leaves solopreneurs kind of feeling left out on an island by themselves, right? So without a structured payment system, it's easy to overspend because you don't know, okay, well, I know this was a good month, but how much do I have left over if next month is a bad month, right? So you want a way to not overspend in good months and a way to help you not struggle in slow ones. And then large irregular expenses such as taxes, software renewals, and things like that often go unplanned. So you may have like $1,000 tax bill and you're like, I didn't have money for that. How do I solve for that, right? So we take a look at a graph in the top right. If you picture everywhere above the red dotted line is going to be above average monthly income. Everything below the red dotted line is going to be below average income. You may still made a lot of money. I mean, May you still made $3,000, but it wasn't the same $9,000 you may have made in June, right? So how do we set money aside for things and plan ahead, right? So from this, we want to take a look at how to stabilize cash flow by paying yourself a salary from business earnings rather than pulling money randomly. We want to create a buffer to cover slow months, and we want to use a structured allocation system. Again, hint and foreshadowing it, digital envelope system to keep your funds organized. Okay. All right. Structuring your income buckets. Now, there can be multiple different ones. Some of these apply, some of these don't. But the idea here is you want to set aside usually for taxes, maybe 25 to 30%, expenses to cover all of your fixed costs like software, office rent, and marketing. Owners paid allocate a percentage for personal income and profit, something to set aside for the business to help grow the business for reserves and to reinvest. So if we look at this, a very quick kind of stab in the dark here, 25% for taxes, 10% for profit, 50% for owner's pay. Maybe we need a holding account to be able to pay for business expenses in slow months, and we want to top up or fill up that income bucket up to $5,000, but not add a penny more. And then maybe we need to top up our normal monthly expense budget up to 1,500, and again, not a penny more, right? So we need a tool and system that's going to help us do that and do all of this automatically for us. So we can remove emotion, we can remove planning, and it just automatically works. So let's move on to automating this with allocations and sequence, all right? So time to figure out your rules. This is the fun bit, and this is the part you're going to redo over and over and over until you just kind of forget you're not logging into Sequence anymore and you have money, right? And it just works. So how much do I need each month? This is going to take some practice, a lot of practice, and again, more practice, right? If you have tools like Monarch Money to say like how much am I spending, how much is going out of my sphere of control every month or every quarter, every year, that will help dramatically here. Because I want to see like historical trending. Show me how much have I spent last year in September or last year in November when I had Thanksgiving, right? Show me that spending time so I can help plan in the future, right? How much do I need to set aside for taxes? Start with a fixed percentage like 25% and adjust from there, right? This is going to be fluid, right? The idea is that you start somewhere because it's better than nowhere, and then kind of adjust as you go. And then what vendors do I need to pay? You are going to continually find new vendors and new money outgoing, probably for months and months, probably 6 months into your sequence journey, you'll still be you're finding vendors that you need to pay, right? And these could be the large ones you probably know of, right? But it's going to get down to the small ones where like, oh, I have a $9 Adobe subscription that I pay for each month, right? You'll start uncovering these that you've swept under the rug or just didn't know about for a long time. And you want to create pods for each one of these. And that's going to be important later. And then how much do I set aside for profit and pay? A good place to start is 10% for profit and 50% for owner's pay, right? These numbers are all up to you. The point is that you start somewhere because again, it's better than nowhere. On the right side here, we're kind of looking at a real quick visual of if funds were to flow from top down. We receive money through Stripe or Venmo, doesn't matter. And then we have what's pretty common in the investing term or investing realm of sweep accounts, where I just can chuck money into an account and then it has rules applied, where maybe I go and top up my holding account to $5,000, but at the same time, like maybe I don't make $5,000 in an entire month, right? So I can't send all of my money there. I just need to send a little bit there at a time, right? So it's kind of like a penny jar, but I need it to be automatic. So we're going to sweep some funds in there, not all of them, and then we're going to distribute what's left down to owner's pay, taxes, and profit, right? And this all has to be automatic because humans are emotional beings, and emotions are not always in our best interest or in our favor. So if we can remove emotion and just kind of focus on the numbers, that's going to be your best chance of success, right? Moving on to paying yourself consistently. All right, so setting a salary for yourself, you can create your own stability, and this is the cool bit here. So one of the best ways to manage cash flow is paying yourself a steady salary rather than taking random withdrawals. I think we've all been in the boat at some point of like either being really close on numbers and getting a little worried, letting emotion take charge, and maybe pulling money out of one of our LLCs, or maybe we did that in the past. It sucks. It can set everything out of balance, right? We want to set a schedule and we want it to be a fixed amount, right? But the idea is that determine your monthly average, ensure stability, set an amount to transfer to your personal account each month, build a cash reserve in your business to cover slow months. Good guess, a good place to start is 3 to 6 months. Reassess every 3 to 6 months based on your actual income trends. And again, growth should translate to higher pay over time. And then consider a tiered payment approach, right? So like if your revenue fluctuates pretty wildly, set some income tiers for yourself. One thing we'll also touch on is you can also give yourself quarterly bonus payments if you find yourself having extra cash on hand too. But what's really cool with Sequence is we want to take cash from the owner's pay and automatically distribute it into the personal account. Now, we may not want to do the entire balance of the owner's pay all at once in one lump sum, right? Maybe we want to do the first and 15th. Maybe we want to do every Friday. The idea is that you create your own pay schedule, and that's what we're going to talk about here. So here we're going to talk about automating your own paychecks. So set up that automatic transfer from your business account to your personal. Scheduled removes decision making and emotion. Adjust the transfer amount as your income grows, so you can gradually increase your own pay. And then integrate multiple pay structures as needed. So I kind of talked about this. Maybe I'm paid through Stripe, maybe I'm paid through Venmo. Maybe I'm not making as much in the off season. I need to go, find a part-time job. I could fill, excuse me, I could fill a part-time job and send money in right to the side of my pay on the first and 15th, right there in the middle. I can just add another rule right on the side of it and kind of supplement that wherever I need, right? But the idea is that we're flowing top down. We're first taking care of sweeping all of our income, regardless of how it comes into sequence, all in one place. We're taking care of our holding account if we need one. We're taking our splits for taxes, profits, owner's pay, and my pay, right? And then once it hits my pay, the my pay, kind of picture a dotted line between owner's pay and my pay of that veil of the LLC, right? So everything above the dotted line, everything above my pay is considered business. Everything below my pay is considered my personal, right? So now I can pay out for my electric. Maybe my electric is $250 a month. Maybe my water is $100 a month. My groceries, I need it maybe roughly $1,000. Gas and transportation, I need about $250, and my mortgage is about $1,000, right? What's really cool here is that we can actually set rules to top up these accounts. So we're not just throwing money aimlessly at water bill or electric, right? We're only putting aside as much money as we need for that vendor. Okay. And it's really, really nice because then you'll actually find money you have left over when you're limiting where your money goes and you're actually using it as a tool. So preparing for expenses, we're going to talk about this a little bit more. This is where we introduce the idea of sinking funds and the digital envelope system. So first, we're going to talk about sinking funds. So for anyone that's not familiar with sinking fund, the idea is that the fund or savings account always sinks towards $0. But the catch is that you contribute to the fund on whatever pay interval you normally have. So those of us that have W-2 pay, maybe we're paid 26 pay periods a year. Maybe we're paid twice a month. So maybe we have 24, right? Whatever pay period you choose to pay yourself from your businesses and hustles, right? This is how that's going to determine what goes into the sinking fund. So let's say I'm paid, I pay myself once a month from my business, maybe a little bit light. Okay. What I'll do is I'll take the total amount of the sinking fund. So maybe that's $1,000 that I need for car maintenance here. and I'll divide that by 12 paychecks because I'm paid 12 times in a year that I've set up to be, right? And that's how much I'm going to contribute towards that $1,000 each paycheck. So this may be a personal expense and not a business expense, right? But the idea is that all my business expenses are already taken care of. We're already trickled down into past the owner's pay and into my pay now. So now I'm contributing towards my car maintenance fund. I want to say that's about $80 if my math is about right, maybe $82, $85 per pay period that I am throwing into my car maintenance fund. You can use these for holiday savings, yearly subscriptions, car maintenance, vacation savings, and of course, taxes, right? And you can do the same thing for your business. Your taxes automatically setting aside 25%. You can always top up that amount too, or have a little extra savings if you needed it. The digital envelope system. This is the other half. So if sinking funds were the things that are non-monthly or longer than 1 month out, right? Then digital envelopes are what's inside of the month within the 30-day pay period of a singular calendar month, right? So these could be things like food, gas, clothing. It could be sushi dates, pizza nights, water, rent, electric, car loans, groceries, whatever you pay for in a month that isn't really tied to a specific vendor per se. Maybe they are. So maybe like electric is. But the idea is that these are going to be like daily debit card spend, going out, running errands, that kind of stuff, right? And this is where like Monarch money is really going to come into play too, is like, or Copilot, I want to say is one, or like Intuit Mint before they shut down. The idea is that you want to be able to look at all of your historical transactions and say, like, how much do I typically spend on groceries in a month, right? And this will kind of give you that number. And so by creating a pod for each one of these or an account for each one of these, you essentially have a digital envelope that you're going to fill up with money, and then that's safe to set aside. So now I have, for example, $650 set aside for groceries. And if I overspend in gas, I only have $425 to spend in gas. I still always have 650 set aside for groceries. So I'm not going to essentially overspend in gas and accidentally not have money to eat, right? These are pre-allocated so that they can't interfere with each other, so to speak. So I talked through most of this, but let's go ahead and take a look at what this may look like for you. So again, the paycheck could be my pay in the middle. And essentially on the left side, we have our sinking funds, and on the right side, we have our digital envelopes. So we kind of want to split these out, right? So if the right side is my daily spend, what I spend in a month, the left side is what I'm contributing towards for those large, unexpected, or maybe planned expenses that I may forget about in 3 months. All right. So the last bit here is kind of relaxed. It's automated, right? So you kind of want to start to track all of your yearly and non-monthly expenses where possible. So I added a bit of both on here. So both monthly and non-monthly, but like electric might be on the 15th of the month, water the 7th, gas is whenever the gas light goes on. Groceries is sometimes a Saturday morning, maybe a Tuesday night. And holidays, there's December, random Tuesday in July, and another one in August. And of course, taxes for April 15th, right? Like these are all different unexpected things. And for me, they've always given me trouble. Like it's like I feel like I'm on the ball, I'm doing well with my budgeting, and then all of a sudden I have a birthday come up that I need to spend money on and all of that, and it throws off my monthly budget. The idea is that a sinking fund you can draw from and not feel guilty about. You have a preset budget that say maybe I want to spend $250 or $500 on birthdays for kids or spouse, right? I can draw that and not feel guilty. Money's already set aside and I'm free to spend it. So kind of start getting an idea, and maybe you can use Excel, maybe you can use a tool like Confluence databases or Airtable. I've heard some other people use. Just start recording each of these things you learn about as you encounter them, so you can kind of get a better idea of how much they are and when they pull. So how does this look for me? So this is a few iterations ago. Like I said, money maps, you're going to make dozens of them. You're going to change your versions over time, and you're just going to keep kind of building on top of it. And so on the left side in the gray and that sweep to investment on the purple, those are all of my sinking funds. So I've got like a holiday, vacation, a general sinking fund that's going to be for like small subscriptions and whatnot. I have my emergency fund, sweep to investments for like IRAs and things like that, taxable investing. And then I have my personal checking account. So everything on the right in the purple is going to be my daily spend. So those are going to be vendors like electric, water, car insurance, and trash, down to fun stuff like gym, Spotify subscription, and Xbox Game Pass for me and my spouse. So kind of breaking this out, you can kind of see how the funds can all kind of trickle down from your Stripe and Venmo or however you receive funds as solopreneur, and kind of work their way through setting aside for taxes, profits, owner's pay, other large expenses, holding, and then kind of trickle down into, all right, this dollar is actually mine and I'm good to spend it. My business has already been paid for, right? All of those, all of it, it makes it a lot easier to follow and feel better about. That is the last thing I have here. So I'm going to want to kind of move to kind of wrap up question and answer. And I've got a few closing slides too, but I wanted to see if anybody had any questions.
This is great, Nick. Thank you. There have been a lot of folks who have joined. I'm not seeing a bunch of questions in the sidebar yet, but you guys are welcome to either unmute or raise your hand or drop a question in the sidebar. Nick covered a lot of ground, so they're like all questions are in bounds. So Joshua, yeah, sure, Joshua, come off mic, man. Tell us.
Hey Nick, thanks for the presentation. Quick
Yeah.
question. You said you were like holding back like vacancy for your rental property, which makes a lot of sense. I was wondering if you do anything fancy with automating like pulling funds out of your vacancy holding into kind of the top of your money map on months where your rental income is lower, or is that kind of a manual intervention on those months?
Yeah, I love that. So to kind of give you a little bit of a little bit more history on it. I use a tool called Tenant Cloud, which basically it's really nice. They don't charge per door or number of leases or anything like that, or at least they did, and I haven't checked their pricing structure in a while. But it's like only 15 or 17 bucks a month for like unlimited doors. And for a long time, they actually allow you to have as many checking accounts linked as you want. And they basically allow you to route inbound rent and security deposit payments into any number of checking accounts you want. So essentially, I have a checking account for each property I have, and then that routes obviously into Sequence. And then I split out vacancy, maintenance, I want to say taxes, and I think that's it. And then I top up like an emergency holding account, and then route those to Ally for high yield savings accounts. But to actually answer your question, no, I don't have anything yet that will pull from per se from Ally and move it back into the loop. Everything's kind of rent inbound, and then I have like a holding account that I allow like my property manager to like spend, debit card or credit against too. So
Great
Awesome.
question.
Thanks.
yeah,
By the way, so we got a comment from Brian, and I'll also share that here just for because we've got some people who are streaming and who can't raise their hand. So I mean they can, I just won't see it. So Brian asked or mentioned, how does it work best for rewards and the best ways to maximize those aspects? I think we just need ACH payments to places here. And he said, and Brian, by the way, feel free to come off and correct me if I'm not characterizing this right. He said apartments.com is what he uses, which is free, and that routes to Sequence. But a little bit about his situation and then wondering about how you work with rewards and the best way to maximize those aspects of those accounts.
yeah. So I have not. I'm like toes in the water with rewards on like from credit cards. For me personally, I'll admit credit cards have been a slippery slope for me. I still very much dislike them. I have a good solid system right now for my hosting business. My Amazon Web Services charges and Microsoft and Azure charges are all pretty stable, and they don't scale a whole. It's not like an exponential scaling per customer that I onboard. So it's relatively easy to let it just be fire and forget and let automation take care of it. But essentially, the way that it works is that I have a Amex Blue Card business account that my AWS, Azure, and Microsoft bills to. And then Sequence, I have a holding account that essentially I top up to 500 or $1,000, and then it on the first of each month transfers whatever the current balance of that blue business card is over to that liability account, that manual liability account, and then Amex draws on, I want to say like the 10th to pay off the card in the full balance. So I do get some cool points with that. I also have a Hilton card that I get some rewards with. But so far, the biggest stable rewards I've gotten so far is actually from Sequence. So if I flip back to this map here, each one of these, I have meticulously forced every one of my vendors to use debit cards, virtual debit cards to pull from. So I get the 1% cash back bump from Sequence on every transaction that they bill. So I get 1% cash back on all my monthly reoccurring outgoing. And then it filters into a single rewards pod at the top at the beginning on the first day of each month. And then I filter that into investments. I kind of split it out. I use rules. So I want to say the subscription I'm on is like $29.99 a month for the business tier, I want to say. So I kind of break out the $29.99 into my high yield savings account sinking a fund to pay for Sequence next year. And then whatever's left from the rewards, I filter down into investments.
Great question, Brian. We have a comment from Dave who said that he loves how neat your map is and wants to know if you have a full map view.
I do. Let me go ahead and, is it all right if I go ahead and kill share here real quick?
Yeah, you're fine.
All right, I hope everyone's ready to grab onto their seats here. This is I'm gonna open, rather than opening up my personal map here, let me go ahead and open up my playground that I made a while back. I can probably grab it, but if you've got another question too in the meantime while I find that.
Yeah, sure. There's so Joshua said that Tenant Cloud doesn't let you have a checking account per property on the lower tier anymore. He's
Got it.
grandfathered in, and it sounds like maybe you are too, but he just that's really sort of more a comment than a question, I think.
Yeah, they did just start changing the pricing model on that, which is pretty unfortunate. Isn't feature. I can find this
It's
guy.
where it helps to be an early adopter.
It does.
Do you have so while you're pulling that up, Nick, one of the things that you touched on a little bit were tax implications. By the
Yep.
way, we are going to talk to a small business tax expert tomorrow. So any of you guys who are following along who want to come join tomorrow, like we're gonna have another one at 1 o'clock Central, 2 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Um, anyway, any other than like the sinking fund approach where you're putting money in that bucket proactively, anything else that you've tried to do that's been really helpful for you and just staying on top of that? Because sometimes they move the goalposts on you where taxes are concerned.
Yeah. I haven't yet, but I have some friends and coworkers that choose to do quarterly tax filings. I think it's definitely more common for like local and state than it is for federal, but trying to get a good basis there. Yeah, I would say just like set aside as much as you can, and if you have to dip into emergency fund, do that. Just don't take any IRS penalties. That's like the one thing that you don't want to do.
Yep, makes sense. And for those of you who aren't seeing, do you want to pull that up? Um, he's
Yeah.
Nick's dropped the link of his playground map in here.
Let me make sure I grab the right window here. All right, can
Okay.
everybody see my screen?
Right now, it looks like maybe I'm seeing code.
Oh my goodness. You are seeing code. That is not intended at
Maybe,
all.
maybe we're gonna learn a lot.
Well, hopefully we are. Yeah. All right. Well, there's nothing in there. That's good. It was just a broken Zoom link. So, all right, let me reshare here. Sorry, guys.
Okay, cool.
That was weird. That was the same window I just selected. Hopefully that is not code because that is supposed to be Firefox.
Yeah, that's the winner.
Amazing.
There
Okay.
you go, Dave.
All right. Let's clean that up. All right. So this is actually larger than I can pan here. All right. So let's start at the top here because it's going to take a minute to kind of dive through everything. So let me zoom up here. So I also have W-2 pay as long as so does my spouse. So along the top, I have the option here of having Workday with my employer. So I can actually break out from my employer where my expense reimbursements go and where my bonus and traditional income goes. So both me and my spouse have this same kind of guardrails set up where we have a condition in here, and the condition looks like this. So let me get this out of the way so I can actually see what I'm doing. The idea here is I want to only run money through my digital envelope system if it is within certain bounds. So don't run bonus pay and don't run money funds through if I'm underpaid, which has happened before. So if the amount is say less than $1,000, we want to transfer it to unknown income. We want to manually find out what happened. If the transfer amount is more than 3,000, also full stop. I want to manually allocate each dollar of my bonus, right? Because we want to make sure it's going to good use. And more than frequently, my bonus is actually another paycheck So it actually doesn't fall on the same pay schedule. So I need to manually figure out what I want to do. Otherwise, we consider it decent income. We do, consider it paycheck income and it's allowed to proceed. So these are my guardrail pods that don't ever get used except for the bottom one on a good day. Also across the top here, I have things like IRS refunds, maybe peer-to-peer payments like Venmo, and then my spouse's income follows the same route here as well. And then occasionally she'll have some freelance income where we set aside a tax holding for that. Kind of going through, let's go through my flow on the left here. So once we verify that the fund incoming transfer amount, it falls within the bounds of what we consider a good, healthy paycheck. We want to go ahead and break this out into all of our digital envelopes, our sinking funds, send off to investments, pay our mortgage, and all of that kind of fun stuff. So this part is going to look pretty familiar from the presentation. We have like holiday, vacation sinking fund, emergency funds. Maybe we have a suite for investments where this rule is actually pretty interesting. We should go ahead and pull this one up. We want to transfer 100% of our funds incoming, but up to the IRS limit per year. Once that's hit, we want to go ahead and transfer the remaining portion over to M1 and start investing in taxable investment strategies, right? Kind of moving on to that, we want to top up maybe my personal checking to $1,000. And then what this rule looks like, it looks pretty cumbersome, but that's okay because we want to be specific, not fancy, right? So we're doing top ups here to different amounts. We're maybe transferring a percentage to investments. Again, transferring and setting like a top up limit for a personal mortgage. We're doing $450 each time. I've kind of talked through that before, that paying your mortgage at 50% of the mortgage on every paycheck. If you are a 26 pay period person, you actually get the 13th mortgage payment broken up into two sections. And then if you do spin wheel or method to push that, you'll actually gain that 13th payment half a year early, or you'll gain half of the 13th payment a half year early. So you'll actually beat the amortization table of your mortgage on the day following the extra half payment. So if your mortgage lender lets that happen, you should definitely take advantage of it. But kind of going back to what we were talking about here for the digital envelopes, each one of these is a virtual debit card that's added to my Google Pay on my phone. Both me and my spouse have all of these. So if we go into a Quick Trip and want to buy like a protein bar or like a Monster Energy, we can just tap our phones and pay for it. And it pulls from these funds. And we know that it won't cause us to ever overdraft on electric, water, or anything that we need to have, right? Kind of over here, this is the same kind of flow, a little bit simplified. We transfer straight from my spouse's paycheck to her checking account, save for investments, and again, we follow the IRS guidelines on what we can contribute to an IRA, and then the rest goes into a brokerage. And then kind of sweeping down here, we have a debt pay down. Let's say we have some credit cards that we want to pay off. The idea is here with a tiered approach that the first debt pay down pod here will automatically allocate the minimum payments of both cards, not a penny more. So that now when the credit card institutions pull from these accounts, they will have the minimum payment there and we can tell the credit card company to only pull the minimum. What's important here is that these lower ones are pushed. I found there's about a 6-day delay on average with spin wheel and method. For me, I don't want to take any chances with minimum payments and taking any fees. So if I configure the liability of the financial institution to pull their own funds, they're responsible for pulling on time. If they are not able to, I can always get them to reimburse any late fees. If I am pushing and I'm late, then I'm the problem. So that way, the way I have this set up is that all minimums are allocated first to be pulled by the institution. Any remaining funds go into a debt pay down holding and is automatically pushed to the next highest APR at on the 1st and 15th. The reason for the 2-week delay is it gives Plaid time to update. I've seen some Plaid delays in the past, and 2 weeks is frequent enough. So that is the personal-ish side of things. But the way that this can kind of play in is here are the businesses on the side. So the way that I run my tenant cloud here, and Dave pointed out that they don't have that for new plans anymore, is that Stripe can come in, or actually this is my Adams Digital Flow. I moved it. Usually I keep my hosting side on the left side here, but let's talk through this first. So I have multiple different ways that I can be paid for my hosting services, some through Venmo for one-time charges, sometimes through Stripe. Sometimes I receive payments from Microsoft for cloud service provider kickbacks, all of that kind of stuff, right? All of those sweep into a business sweep for business one. And then I pull out some for OpEx holding, and then I pull out some for profit. and then the credit card automatically transfers, or Sequence automatically transfers the full balance of whatever's on the credit card from OpEx holding each month to pay off the card. And then this is filled back up, and then profits keeps getting funded. For the rental properties, the way that this works is essentially rental properties are listed out here as their own income sources to receive payments for rent. And then that's broken out into paying the mortgages on each property, and then also paying down or paying into vacancy, maintenance, and then security deposits is its own isolated flow here to kind of keep that separate. I believe a few different states, including Illinois, require you to hold security deposits in their own isolated checking account. So this adheres to that flow here. But essentially, this is how that looks. Any questions on that large amount of information?
Amazing. You guys got a little bonus money map session in there. Great question, Dave. Okay, so we are getting close to time. Before, if you have any other questions, now would be a good time to raise your hand. I'm going to drop in a link for anybody that was here, and I have like a 3-question survey for you guys. Like it'll take you 30 seconds, but just to help us continue to refine these and make them as good as they can be. We appreciate your feedback. What an awesome job, Nick. By the way, Dave says, awesome. I recommend asking all credit cards to move due date to the last week of the month. All of my liabilities are due on the 25th. So nice. That's a great trick. Dave, I have to tap you for one of these days. Really super great. Anything, first of all, before we wrap up, Nick, can you tell everybody like where the best places are to find you if they have more questions? Because sometimes people like to ask questions when they're not on the spot or in the spotlight.
Goodness, let me do that real quick. I'm gonna just kill off my screen share here.
Okay.
And bring up my presentation again. So I can get this going here. There we go. Perfect. All right. And there was one other thing I wanted to show here. Presentation mode. Awesome. And back to Zoom and screen share.
Well, while Nick's pulling this up, I will, once this compiles, I'll send this around to you guys. So you've got a recording of tonight's session, and we really appreciate you spending some time with us. Go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
Yeah, of course. So one thing I wanted to cover real quick are some tools and tips that I like to share with everyone. So I have 3 different pillars that I consider to be, I guess, finance broken down into, whether it's personal, business, solopreneur, or large enterprise, is you have essentially your automated finances. How does my money actually move? And that is Sequence for me. A budgeting tool, personal and business. I use Monarch Money. That's usually pillar number 2. How do I spend my money and how does my money move from today and historically? That's Monarch. And then forecasting from today forward on financial projections, that's Projection Lab. So some things that I recommend are Futures and French Toast. It is awesome and I love doing it. It's basically where me and my spouse sit down every Saturday morning. We talk through all of our yearly goals, quarterly goals, monthly goals, how we're progressing on those. How does our financial outlook look like? And then, of course, our calendars and scheduling. And we usually make a fun breakfast item to do it and sit down and have our laptops open, or we go out to eat at a restaurant that is usually far too busy for us to be consuming a table for like 2 hours. But that's usually what we do on Saturday mornings, is sit down and kind of have a money meeting, a planning meeting, and kind of a goal, vision, dreaming session all together in one. So it's really awesome. If you guys don't do that with your spouse, partners, or close family members, I would recommend doing it. Share your dreams with your partner and family, and don't stop learning. And if I can get it to advance the next slide here. There we go. And then here's where to find me. So you can always shoot me an email at contact@nickadams.guru, or you can visit my website, nickadams.guru. I've got links to my Signal profile. You can shoot me a DM on Signal. I'm also on Discord, GitHub, LinkedIn, and all of that. And you can also find all those links there. So.
Awesome. Nick, thank you so much. This was really terrific. I knew that you'd crush it, but you always bring lots of surprises, and you always thought through this super thoroughly. So thank you so much for all the time and care that you put into sharing this today. This is really awesome. So many great questions from you guys. So this will, like I said, this will compile I'll package it up and then send it all to you guys either tonight or in the morning. And then I hope that that you'll consider joining us for tomorrow's talk with Barbara Weltman, who's a former attorney and radio host who's talked a lot about small business finance and taxes. So anyway, this is amazing. Another home run. Thank you so much, Nick. And I hope the rest of you have a great rest of your Tuesday, and we will look forward to connecting with you again soon.